Okay. Well, what episode is this?
Two.
This is
Welcome.
two? I thought it was three.
Episode duo. No, I trashed the rest of them.
Episode
Only
deuce.
the high quality stuff makes it onto the site. ThePrinceBodie.com. I don't know. We don't have a website for that yet, but we do have a YouTube address, The Prince Bodie Network, home of the Bub and Pop podcast.
Excellent.
I miss Bodie.
Yeah, who doesn't miss Bodie? For those who don't know, which is everybody, Bodie was, what was he? He was a Springer Spaniel mixed dog.
He was a mutant.
He was a mutant who was a part of our clan for maybe 5-6 years, or maybe I'm overestimating that. But he is now with a new family in Encino, and according to the new owners, his moniker around the apartment complex is the mayor of Encino. He's living high off the hog. He's 20 pounds overweight, whatever it is, and he's living his best life. So there we go.
That's good for him. Okay, so we got 3 segments today. What's going on?
Yeah, I thought we'd kick it off. It seems like every week, so far for the past couple of weeks, you and I have been watching a movie from our houses and then talking about it the next day. And I've been trying to get you to watch this for a while, but it's the latest Tom Hardy movie, which was straight to video on demand because of the pandemic. But Capone. So I've seen this maybe a couple months ago, I think, and you just got on the bandwagon.
I just did it last night.
What did you think?
That's an hour and 47 minutes of my life I will never get back. I mean, it was painful to get. I kept stopping it, to like get up and go to the restroom or go get a beer or something like that. Coming back with this false hope that if I came back, something would happen miraculously. You ever do that? Stop a video going, this is so crappy.
It might get better. It might get better.
It might get better if I stop it and leave. Tom Hardy, who is certainly beyond a talented actor. The guy's got more gears than anybody. It just got to the point. It was so farcical of him walking. First off, shame on them for ever greenlighting a movie that's plot is the last year of Al Capone.
No, I don't have a problem with that at all. I think that's awesome. No, I have no problem with that at all. Like he was like, because it's like, if you're going to do a mob movie, the mob movie thing has been done to death. I think Sopranos was the last say-so in a lot of ways on, that whole genre. But if you're going to do something, you got to do it different. You got to shake it up. So it's like, okay, let's look at the last year of Capone's life while he's losing his mind and he can't leave his property and he's getting visits from his cronies. It's like,
want to watch a guy.
Cool, fine. Like the way they opened the movie was great. And he's just sort of like that haunted house vibe. You got Tom Hardy wandering through with whatever it was, a candlestick or a lantern or whatever he had in his hand. And then it's good for all of about 10 seconds. And then it just was like a nosedive into stupidity for an hour and 47 minutes, which felt like 2 hours and 47 minutes.
The best part was him finding his gold-plated Tommy gun and walking out and shooting various landscapers. I couldn't tell who the landscapers were, by the way, and the people who were there to protect him. The whole setup of what the whole group around him. I didn't know he had so many people on his crew that were still there. The only part that was good was the idea that he had buried $10 million somewhere and that the doctor was trying to figure out a way to get it out of him, like through, pictures and stuff like that. But it just got to be so preposterous. And Tom Hardy, he didn't, even at the end, there was no real dialogue. It was, ugh.
Oh, I've got my Capone impression down. I've got it down. And then he shit his pants. Like that was one part that I thought was great, was the comedic timing of the editing of that movie, where they thought it was dramatic. Like he's in bed, she's like, "Are you all right?" She goes, "Oh, you shit your pants." Cut, and then they went to the next scene. It was just so bad for an actor like Tom Hardy, who's such a boss in everything he's been in, even in something like Dunkirk, which wasn't my favorite Nolan movie, but anything he's been in, he's just always awesome. In this, it was like a good actor being given bad directions by the director and just doing something so bonkers and just off the rails ridiculous. Like, oh,
I like when they've got these, these gigantic diapers, and he's got his gold-plated Thompson submachine gun, and he's spraying bullets all over the place.
And he's mowing down the mow and go in the front lawn.
The mow and go guys in the front lawn, and then he sees the FBI guys off in the distance, running around like jackrabbits out in the forest. Anyhow, Movie should have never been made. It just should have never been made.
The director's awful. This was his second attempt at at like, helming a movie of like any kind of like substantial, whatever. But the one he did before that, which I watched not that long ago, was they tried to remake the Fantastic Four in kind of that Batman Begins Nolan kind of way of doing it.
Yeah.
And it's the same, and it was so bad. It was so just
like
Suicide
same thing. Squad's going to be so bad. The next Suicide Squad or the next.
Well, you got James Gunn directing it, who was the guy who did Guardians of the Galaxy, who a lot of people probably remember. He was getting ready to do the third one, and then part of the cancel culture thing, he got exposed, whatever you want to call it, for tasteless jokes he made on Twitter like 10 years ago. And then Disney canceled their contract with him.
Yeah.
And then what was pretty incredible was every member of that cast and people who have known him for years all came out, and they had, I know Chris Pratt and members of that cast had drafted a joint letter saying, this is not him. We don't agree with this. This is digging into someone's past and trying to use anything you can to just, part ways with him. And it really was a turning point in the culture of just the cancel culture thing of not only did Disney hire him back, I believe he got more money. Don't quote me on that. I may be wrong on that. But now he's also doing the second Suicide Squad movie for DC. So in a lot of ways, it's almost like, he got broken up with, and then he got asked to come back in the relationship, and then he leveraged that and said, okay, I'm coming back, but you got to let me have my side chick too, that I found after you broke up with me.
Well, see, I'm one of the, I know this raises a problem for you, but yeah, the original Guardians of the Galaxy was very, very cute, and the second one was a total waste of time, and so.
But you had Kurt Russell in there. You had Kurt Russell. Tango and Cash, which I rewatched a couple nights ago.
What did you watch?
Tango and Cash. I rewatched that a couple nights ago.
Oh, best Kurt Russell movie that people don't watch is Art of the Steal.
You mention that all the time.
Have you
Bone
not
Tomahawk?
Art of the Steal?
No, I have. You showed it to me. Bone Tomahawk.
Bone Tomahawk was actually watchable. It was interesting.
It was really good. But going back to
somebody dared to do something way out of the box. But no, Art of the Steal is hysterical. By the way, Matt Damon Matt Dillon in Capone was useless character.
Going out, they gave it no context.
What are you doing with a gun? You're shooting alligators.
Well, and then there's no context.
Let me get that gun away from you.
Wait, he was based on who in Capone's circle? That was an actual guy. Who was that?
I don't know. It was a guy from The Sopranos.
No. Matt Dillon, the character he was playing was Capone's guy, and they never say it outright who he is.
Yeah, he shows.
I remember Googling something saying, "Oh, this was based off of this guy."
He shows up when he's done.
No context for the character, and his intro is just stupid. He's just having sex with some woman just because. There's no artistic justification for why this is happening. It's like, oh, is he greedy? Is he a sadist? Like whatever that looks like. It's like, no, let's just open on him just having sex with someone in a hotel room.
Everybody that sort of enters the movie, even the son at the end reaching over and holding his hand.
Stupid.
It was really.
It just wasn't a good movie, but it was like car crash good. You just couldn't turn away. But I had to pause it 3 times to take a breather, even though it was an hour and 47.
Well, I got to tell you, Prime Video is like striking out with me. I mean, unless you want to watch abstract World War II documentaries about battles you never heard of, or you want to watch The Americans, which everybody should watch The Americans at least all the way through once, if not twice. But now I was on Amazon Prime, and they take this stinker on, and I'm going, well, what else do you guys have to offer? And there's nothing really up there. And I thought the Prime original stuff, I haven't watched The Boys because I'm just done with vampires. I'm just done with it.
It's not vampires, it's comic books. So you're close.
It's comic book. Vampires and comic books.
No, I get that.
Same thing to me. But there's nothing on there that I'm going, gee, this is compelling and I want to watch it. The last season, since we're on the critical stuff, the last season of Jack Ryan was a complete waste of time. Waste of time.
It was dragging its heels.
Was pretty good, and I thought the first season, oh, this is going to be great. They end up in Russia where they should be, and then it just lays a gigantic turd. Gigantic. Yeah. I can still
hopefully they'll bounce back.
Yeah. So anyhow, sorry.
But not to sidetrack from the movie review. I felt like we've done 2 now, but the movies were just so bad that there's nothing that you can sit there and really look at and be like, oh, this was great, because it was Capone is just a bad movie with a really good actor, probably doing I mean, other than Legend, which was like, he was okay in that.
Do your
But,
impersonation again.
yeah, and yeah, and he just gets like, he didn't even look like Capone. And I get they're trying to make him look, you know, he's syphilitic or whatever. That's the right word, right? Syphilitic. And he's just like, you know, it's deteriorating his mind. But it got to the point that they're making him look so sick and disgusting that it looked cartoonish. It didn't even look like an unhealthy person. It looked like something out of Dick Tracy, the Dick Tracy movie with Al Pacino and Warren Beatty. You remember that? Like,
that was one of the things I was going to say, is that he looked like Al Pacino's character in Dick Tracy at one point.
Bad.
Maybe the same makeup people. Yeah, so you know, there's nothing we can say that will prepare you for the suckiness of Capone. So don't. Yeah. Even if it's free, if you got Amazon Prime, just don't do it.
I guess we should come up with a rating scale for the movies we've seen in some sort of Siskel and Ebert fashion. But I guess we'll go with a 10 scale on this one. What do you give Capone?
A 10 scale meaning 10 meaning
1 to 10. 1 to 10. Like what do you give?
Bad.
Capone? Yeah, 1 being bad, 10 being amazing. Dark Knight, Godfather. Yeah.
It was probably less than 1. It was probably 0.5. You know,
0.5. Okay, I'll give it a 2. Just because I finished it.
That because it was just, and everybody in it was bad. I like the way they centered around the Thanksgiving scene. That the script was just
that was pretty good.
It's horrible. What are you grateful for? I'm grateful for Papa, or whatever they call him. He goes, let's see.
And then he shits his pants again. Whatever that was. One note to point out: his lawyer. Do you know who his lawyer was in that one scene?
Who? Oh, it was
Neil Brennan. Yeah, Chappelle Show.
Yeah, he was good. Interesting. I thought maybe that guy could do stuff. You know,
give him his own
next week we will talk next week about something that very much disappointed me, because I'm like the #1 Matthew Rice fan in the whole world, right? I mean, Americans was off the charts for me. We're going to talk about next week. We're going to talk about Perry Mason on HBO.
Still haven't seen it.
Okay, then you've got a week to catch up.
All right.
Great. I will tease our audience by saying this. It was great until it wasn't.
Oh, God.
Okay.
All right. All right, so that's our movie review for the week. So this is a news segment. Until we get a better title, I'm calling it What the Hell is Happening, because that's kind of how everyone feels with everything going on in the world now. Just a topic off the top of my head that I read this morning in response to everything that's happening in Wisconsin. The NBA, I think you're going to have to take the lead on this one, but correct me if I'm wrong, suspended the playoffs in response to what happened, and then
that's been
went back on that?
That's changed today.
That's what I'm saying, is like it started that way and then they went back on it. Yeah. Is that right? Okay, so what is that all about?
First off, I'm trying to make sure that I'm not just commenting on stuff, just to comment on a podcast. I thought Doc Rivers, if you saw his comments on the shooting,
I saw that. Yeah.
It was and I've never been a huge LeBron James fan, but I thought his comments also. But Doc Rivers, there was 2 minutes and 45 seconds of Doc Rivers just talking about how he felt about this, and it's so compelling and it's so real. You understand why these guys stopped work yesterday. It was just, we're in this middle of this crazy year that we're in the things with Breonna Taylor and the things with George Floyd. And now, right when you thought it couldn't get any stupider, this thing happens with this video of these almost like Keystone Cops, these in Wisconsin, running around the car with a guy not able to figure out what to do with their guns drawn, and they shoot him in the back 7 times. It was so over the top, and so hearing Doc Rivers talk about it as a black man, there's no way as white people we can understand how they feel about it. It's just they are beyond done. So NBA, who's always been a league that has been socially aware going back to the 1950s, right? When it was Jewish and black basketball players, Jewish owners and black basketball players, and they couldn't, they were basically cut out of all the other sports. So it's always been a league that wanted to be, progressive in terms of human rights and things of that nature. So it wasn't a shock to me that they canceled the games yesterday, because especially if you watch Doc Rivers and his reaction to it, how do you go back to work and not say, geez, as a black person and 90% or something of the league is African-American, and not go, this isn't a day to go to work. This is a day to say, hey, what the hell? So I got that. I thought last night, I wonder where they're going to go with this morning. And then the words this morning were the Clippers and the Lakers teams both voted to stop play altogether. And so a couple of thoughts entered into my mind. I thought, wow, that's bold. It really is. But secondly, on the pragmatic end, I thought if you really want to have a platform as players, your platform is through the mechanism of the games being telecast, and you're part of the games and you're being interviewed about the games. Nobody's going out and saying, listen, let's have LeBron James over to, be on Meet the Press this week. Although maybe, it'll come to that at some point. But it's like I go, if you guys cancel the season, you basically just have to, really reduced your platform to speak out by a ton, because nobody's going to be watching. I mean, they're watching because of the games. Now, that's not to say that they don't have rights as athletes to comment. But if you do that, you're really just turning your platform switch off. And now whatever you say may be on Twitter or Instagram, but it's still not nearly as big and broadcast as ESPN, TNT, Fox Sports, and all these places where they're able to speak their minds. So I wasn't surprised that they said, "Hey, wait a minute, we better get back on the court, because if we really want impact on this, if we really want influence, our influence is derived from the fact that we are notable entertainers." And so that's where they stand right now. The baseball thing is a little different. I think everybody just did a solidarity night, and now the baseball's back on today. But I don't know.
Would the NBA, would they have had the ability to stop doing the playoffs? Okay, how do I phrase this? Like if the Floyd thing happened, this thing happened. Would they have had the ability to shut things down like they did if COVID didn't exist? Would they have had that kind of pull to be like, we're not going to be doing games right now?
Well, it would be harder. They're in that bubble in Orlando, so all the teams that are left in the playoffs, I think they're down to 8 teams now. All those teams are in Orlando playing at the Disney, sports complex. So, in answer to your question, it's easy for them to have group press conferences. It's easy for the reporters to run around the place and get everybody who's important, LeBron, Doc, all those guys, to comment. It's easier for them to do that because they're not doing it. If they were proliferated and out in all their different cities right now with the time zone differences and everything, I don't know if the message would have been so, unified. You might have had, plus, just to be a pragmatist here, I'm not saying it's easy for anybody to do this. I am saying, though, for LeBron James to say, F the playoffs, or the other guys who are high-priced guys like Kawhi Leonard on the Clippers, I'm done. I want to make a statement here. It's easy when you've got a guaranteed contract of gazillions of dollars. And what about the guy who is the guy coming off the bench who's looking at his career span? And I think that probably entered into the conversation too, when they, you can have the guys. NBA's always been star-driven, always, whether it was Magic Johnson or Kobe Bryant or, back in the day, Wilt Chamberlain and those guys. They always had a huge footprint, and the superstars always had more sway in that league than any of the other players. But if you want to look out for your brother player, cutting out the playoffs right now, because there's some money that's involved in winning the playoffs. So if I'm if I'm not LeBron James and I don't have a huge contract, then it's harder for me to say let's just cancel the season. But in answer to your question about COVID, I think it made it easier for them to stay united in a single message, and it made it easier for the NBA league officials and the owners of the clubs and the players to sit down and have a meeting together and come out and say, okay, this is what we discussed and this is what we're going to do. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, LeBron's a smart guy, and he's not. If you want to cancel the playoffs, maybe LeBron doesn't hurt, but everybody around you hurts, right? The people who are doing the broadcast and everything else, and the guys on your team who aren't financially set like you are like, hey, wait a minute, I need this paycheck, So anyhow, it'll be interesting to see what happens from. But that's
what was your comment on baseball? You were leading into
baseball. That. Baseball sort of did a solidarity thing and canceled a lot of games. Just not all of them. They canceled a lot of games and came out, especially the team that I'm passionate about, my old hometown team, the Dodgers. They canceled their games last night. but they're playing today. So I think for them, it's I think if you sit down and think about it, yeah, it's one thing to go ahead and cancel it, but is that really the most effective thing you can do? It's certainly the most impactful thing you can do at the moment. But I'd also advise them too, as somebody that doesn't like Trump and hopes that Trump gets voted out of office. I'm not a Biden supporter. I'm a let's get Trump out of office supporter. And if you look at it that way, there's you know, it's better that you guys stay in front of the cameras. It's better that LeBron, it's better you guys, because the Lakers play tonight, I think, or tomorrow night. You know, after you win that, then you can come out and you get a press conference and everybody's watching. If you're not doing that and you call a press conference tomorrow at noon and it's just you, how many people are actually going to tune in? Well, you know, younger people with social media, but by and large, the exposure of ESPN is not going to be there. Plus, just to be a little cynical here, don't doubt that there was huge pressure from the television networks. ESPN's owned by Disney, right? That's why the bubble is being played in a Disney-owned facility. ESPN, TNT's, the carries, you know, the Charles Barkley and Shaq and all that. That's another thing you lose if you don't have those broadcasts. You don't have Shaq and Barkley and those guys making commentary on this too. You know, on the what is it called, Inside the NBA, the postgame show, which is almost more entertaining than the games when it's fun. You know, because they're really knowledgeable about the sport, and so that'll go on too. But yeah, I think everybody came to the realization. Wait a minute, you may be upset, but don't hand off your microphone that you've got and your audience that you've got, and just close that down because you're upset. It's sort of counterproductive at this moment.
Well, in the immortal words of Melania Trump, my deepest sympathies go out to all. Did you watch that?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that she was dressed up in she was dressed up in a military-looking thing.
I thought the first thought I had in my mind,
1945 or some shit.
First thought, some people were making comments of how it looked like Castro, but the first thought that ran through my mind, and then Trevor Noah actually said this on the Daily Show, but I thought she had the same kind of cadence and presence of like a Bond girl who had just like turned on Bond. And, you know, he's just gotten shot and she's like leaning over him. But it's like, I thought that. And then he said that. I was like, damn it. I thought that I just had an original kind of like thought or whatever. But no, I thought it was great. That's our first lady.
Jones. She's not Christmas Jones. Sorry.
Oh, Denise Richards. Is that your favorite?
We should do a podcast.
Christmas Jones.
Yeah. She's my favorite Bond girl because she's just so innocent.
My deepest sympathies. Yeah, that was
all righty.
All right. Well, last thing we have, and this one's kind of fun. I thought we could do this. Call it whatever you want to call it, a Bub and Pop coin toss moment. I got my LA Dodgers hat knockoff. I apologize to anyone who has the genuine hat. I can't afford it right now. But I've got 6 or 7 questions I threw in here for fun, and we're going to do a coin toss. You can call it out, heads or tails, and then whoever wins gets to ask the other a question from the hat. So I got my what kind of quarter do I got here? What state do we got? I got. What is it? I can't tell. Weir Farm, Connecticut. I got a Connecticut quarter here. So I'll do the coin toss. Call it heads or tails.
Okay, ready?
Yeah, you got to call it heads or tails before I do it.
Call it while it's in the air.
Okay. What? Okay.
Heads.
It's heads. All right. You win. So I'll pull the question. I guess I got to answer it. So let's see here. Or no, you got to answer.
Hey, I'm figuratively pulling it out. There it is.
You got to answer it. So the question is. Okay. All right. The worst outfit you ever saw me wear. It's kind of a easy one. I had some better ones in there, but
there's so many to choose.
Let me pick a different one. I don't like that.
Yeah,
well, go ahead if you want. Okay. Let me do a different one. Okay.
That's like a girlfriend. That's like a girlfriend question.
That is.
Save that one for your girlfriend.
Okay. Your least favorite family vacation, if you can narrow it down to one.
My least favorite family vacation. That's tough. We didn't go on a lot of vacations per se because the time and
AZ almost every summer.
Probably we went to Arizona. I think it was just you, the younger kids, and Mom and I went to Arizona when your grandparents had moved up to Flagstaff, and the car transmission. Yes, I still had that Nissan, that company car that I bought from the Japanese, the Nissan. Eventually gave it to Angela, but there was something wrong with the transmission and it wouldn't go in reverse. And then it would get whacked out like in first gear too. And you had to make sure that car was rolling, and then you could just sort of, automatically run up the thing. So I drove that sucker to Flagstaff, Arizona, which is like, that'll make the worst vacation out of any trip. Okay. And you guys are taking that, right? You and your lady friend are taking that trip. I hate that drive from you go 10 to the 15 and the 15 up to the 40, and then you take 40 across Death Valley, and then you go Kingman. You and I actually did that in a train ride.
Oh, I remember that.
Remember that? Yeah.
That was the year The Dark Knight came out.
Right. So we did that, and then we end up in Flagstaff. Maybe I should switch gears here and say, Flagstaff. Any trip to Flagstaff from LA was always a little wonky.
Anytime we pulled into Needles for a McDonald's break, the tension in the car was palpable. You couldn't wait to get out of there.
Yeah, I don't like any of that area. I don't like Needles. I don't like I-40, because it doesn't matter what time of year it is or what year it is. I-40 is out in the middle of the Death Valley, and that sucker is always under construction. They're always having, because the asphalt's like melted in weird shapes. And they always end up what's divided, 2 lanes on one side and 2 lanes on the other. They end up, building a little road so that they can repair the 15 miles of melted asphalt. And now literally you're going 75, 80 miles an hour, and all that's protecting you between the oncoming trucker who just did his last hit of meth, who just pulled out of Kingman or got a hooker in Kingman or Vegas or whatever. The only thing between you and this guy veering off and killing your entire family is maybe 2 feet. So it was always a tense drive. And by the way, be careful when you drive up there. But then you get to Kingman, and I remember when you and I were in Kingman on the train trip that we took to Flagstaff, and the drunk British guys got on the train.
Oh yeah,
remember that? It was like a scene. It was like the scene from Unforgiven with Little Bill, and Richard Harris
and his ghostwriter. Yeah,
and Richard Harris. What was his name?
John. Bill. Yeah.
John. Yeah, but John Bull. I'm calling everybody John Bull. It was Richard Harris was the actor, great actor. And it's like, so these guys get on and they're wasted, and there's like 2:00 in the morning, and then we pull into Flagstaff at like 4:30 in the morning. And I snuck a bottle of wine onto the, well, you were still young enough, you weren't drinking. I snuck a bottle of wine and got half snockered before we even got there, and then your grandparents, they had enough of our bullshit, right? So they drop us off at the train station at 3:30 in the afternoon for a 7:00 train. Thanks, Ray. That was great. So
I'm trying to remember. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, anyhow, I just, so you asked me the worst. Anything that had to do with driving to Flagstaff always was, maybe we had some fun in Flagstaff, but it never offset the goings and comings of driving, compromised car or whatever to Flagstaff.
The one thing that popped in my mind, I can't remember where we were, but it was one of the many, pit stops at a McDonald's that we would take just to get something on the quick. And I don't know how many you had. You had at least 2 in the tray, maybe 3, but they were handing you that, and you had tea, and then all of those things just fell in your lap. Do you remember that?
No.
When you spilled like a tray. You don't remember that?
No, I don't.
I heard curse words. I heard curse words I didn't even remember, didn't even know existed. But yeah.
Part of being a dad.
Awesome.
So that's the worst. I'm sure, after this podcast,
there's plenty.
Think of a worse one.
Well, I got the last one I can think of before we end this is we were in Flagstaff, I believe. It was around 2002, 3 maybe. But we went to that horse race track.
I was just thinking that.
And the horse broke, and then we're having a good time for a minute, and then the horse breaks its leg, and they had to put the thing out of its misery in the middle.
Yeah, in the middle of the thing, and not only that, Maggie won. Her ticket won.
She won a bunch.
She won a bunch of money, like $67 on the Daily.
And she's like, "How old?" She's like, "How old?"
It's like, it's Maggie.
10 or 11.
Maggie. We used to go to the, you put the coins in, and then you pick the little Cupid dolls out of the thing, or little.
Yeah.
Maggie always winning. So Maggie, yeah, I remember that too. So we go to the horse races, and we go to the horse race, and the freaking horse ends up having to be destroyed on the track because they couldn't move it. It was in so much pain, and
God.
So yeah, but Maggie wins money on that.
I think I'm gonna end this with one of my favorite Maggie moments. Maybe that's another segment we should add. Is your favorite Maggie
Favorite
moment?
Maggie moments. Let's do that.
When you guys went and you had tickets, and it was right behind you. You guys were in frame on the camera at the Dodger game, right behind like home plate.
Oh yeah, that was
You,
Bank of
her,
America. Yeah.
Grandma, yeah. And so I don't remind me how it works, but it's just like the open bar buffet or
It's
whatever
open
it looks
everything.
like.
You can get anything you want. It's all free except for booze.
Mom and I watch it, and there's Grandma, there's you, and you're talking to Grandma, kind of talking about the game. It was really sweet to see the two of you. Maggie has her hoodie pulled tight, where you can only see like this much of her face, and she kept getting up every 10 minutes and disappearing, and then would come back with just her like cotton candy popcorn. She's just sitting
We
there
were just
living
talking
high
about
off the
that
hog.
when they were over the other day. We were just talking about that, and Maggie's like, "Yep."
She was just loading up on food. Her face was down the whole time. She didn't give a shit about the game. Didn't give a shit about the game.
Come back. Favorite Maggie moments. All right.
Awesome.
So
all right. Well,
here's what everybody needs to do in preparation for next week. Watch as best you can, because it's 8 episodes, but watch Perry Mason. If you don't, I'm just going to blow it wide open for you. But
is that what we're going to talk about? Is that what I have to watch?
That's the bad movie.
Because I picked the last two, so okay.
It's going to be Perry Mason, but it is. I will say this: it's a mixed bag. It starts out really well until it isn't.
All right.
All right.
So next week, Perry Mason, more questions, and
our new segment,
what's going on in the world.
Favorite Maggie moment.
Yeah, we have to add that at the end, because it's plentiful. There's plenty of them. All right.
All right. Peace out.
Later.
Bye.